Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Containeroz podcast. The podcast is sponsored by PortPro, the leading operating system for drayage carriers. Schedule a demo today at portpro.io, and don't forget to mention Containeros for 10% off. Today in the studio, I have Fernando Gutierrez and his brother Guillermo Gutierrez, and we're gonna be talking about what we do. Intermodal, container hauling, 53 footers, de todo, right?
De todo.
And Fernando Gutierrez is the founder and CEO of FM Logistics. So let's get it going. Tell us a little about yourself and, just to break the ice.
Yeah, definitely. So, 41 years old. I'm an immigrant. I was born in Mexico. Came to the U.S. at the age of 3. I've been living in East LA pretty much for my whole youth. Finally decided to move from East LA to other cities. Currently live in Newport Beach.
Oh.
By the beach. That was definitely one of my biggest goals. Was living by the beach. That was something that I talked about since a young kid. Finally was able to do it. Currently own FM Logistics and a few other companies. And we have 5 terminals in Southern California. Yeah.
No más?
No más.
Tell us a little about yourself.
Guillermo Gutierrez,
Also known as
Jackson.
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 Action Jackson.
Órale.
Yeah, part of the support system para Fernando y FM Logistics y todas las otras terminales. Igual, he was brought at 3. I was brought in at 1. So I'm 2 years younger than Fernando. Pero pretty much siempre involved in everything that, since very young. We've always been involved in a lot of projects together.
Mm-hmm.
Y aquí estamos desde 2018.
I'm excited. This story is going to be very interesting and even more inspiring than most, because coming from the bottom and immigrants and the success story and all that, like when odds are against you and you still make it happen, like what excuse can someone else have?
Yeah.
So
Especially when you don't know the language, right? Growing up in Boyle Heights.
yeah.
You don't really have a lot of mentors or people that could teach you the right path, right? Most of the time, you always hear what other people are doing on the streets, and you look up to, people that are criminals or doing stuff that they shouldn't do, versus seeing, entrepreneurs, business owners, people that are making the right moves, which, you got to find a mentor outside of your little bubble or outside of your inner circle,
Mm-hmm.
which is always hard, right? It's always very difficult to do that. I think the easiest thing is to stay within your inner circle, people that you know, your friends, people that know you, and sometimes won't even push you very hard, right? So that's definitely a comfort. But getting out of that little bubble and meeting with other people that are doing the right things sometimes is super scary. Especially when you might not understand what they're talking about, or talking about investments and stuff like that. It's scary, man. Someone says, hey, go ahead and get a loan for $10,000 and invest in a truck or whatever it might be. I mean, that's super scary.
Yeah.
Who wants to be responsible for a loan that potentially you might owe to the bank, or you might refi your house, le sacas some feria, and
Yeah.
then you lose it. So yeah.
Well, that's betting on yourself right there.
Betting on
Ultimate
yourself.
bet. And then I felt you on that 10,000 investment talk and all that, because then, like, speaking for myself is like, I'm over here worried about paying my rent,
That's right. Yeah.
But wow. What was your earlier you mentioned, maybe I misunderstood, pero dijiste de que, like, growing up, and then I took from it kind of like there was the bad role models around, like,
Yeah, definitely.
is there any reason why you felt you considered them a possibility of a role model? Like no disrespect,
Yeah.
but maybe I missed the part, because obviously you mentioned you came here young, right? You were 1, you were 3.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right? Okay. Did you come with with the father figure or
Yeah.
your mom? Like they were there?
No,
Parents?
yeah. We
But
were
there's
actually,
still intense,
Yeah.
what do you call it? Pressure, regardless of who you have in your life.
yeah, definitely.
Okay. I just want to
So
clarify that.
yeah, my mother and father both are still with us. We all came together as a family. Um, both my parents have been very great role models. They've been very hardworking people, both of them. They both worked intensively, and us growing up, going to school, sometimes we wouldn't see them, right? Father worked night shift, so he slept pretty much the whole day. When we would see him, it was probably the weekends, but when he woke up was later on a Saturday, right?
Or to pay dues, man.
Yeah, so then he's running his errands, right? So he was putting in some work. So a lot of respect for father and mother. And I think, you see that, right? Coming from immigrant family, everyone's here to work, bust your butt. And, that's one of the things that sometimes people see and might not understand is, wow, how is it that person has that drive? How is it that he wakes up every single day early in the morning? I love waking up at 2-3 o'clock in the morning, doing what I need to do. Got my little notebook here where I write all my notes, thoughts, processes, what I want to accomplish, what I'm thinking for next week, next month, next year, and that's my time for myself, right? And the drive is exactly that. Is I felt my parents had already done enough by bringing us here, and my brother and I both were very grateful, right? And that's something that him and I have always connected since a very young age was, okay, well, now it's up to us to do something with this opportunity.
That's because your parents give you all the tools, ¿verdad? Your parents gave you the beginning, which is to even bring you here, to give you the option. Now, once they give you the option and they give you everything that they can, then it's up to us, It's up to us to keep pushing, to keep, that same drive that they had going.
Yeah, you owe it to them, and yourselves and your family tree, your legacy.
Yeah.
That's the whole point, right?
That's
it needs
the
to
point.
evolve,
That's right.
little by little.
Yeah.
And what was the childhood like growing up? You have any memories?
Actually, really good memories. Granted, not a lot of money. Money I don't think was ever like deciding factor in everything. We definitely didn't have a lot of money, but we definitely had a lot of trips as a family, a lot of camping, a lot of stuff we did, very low budget, but definitely together, as a family. So definitely the camping has been always top of the list,
Yeah,
as
personal
family.
time. We always spend a lot of time together. I think emotionally it makes you very strong, right? It makes you strong bond. You feel like, okay, if I take on this new task and I fail, I know that for sure I got my support system, which is Action Jackson here, right, and the rest of my fam, which is always nice, right, that they're not going to judge you. I think one of the hardest thing is to get over what other people think, right? And when I mean what other people think is people outside of your little inner circle. And, getting over that and just saying, okay, I'm going to try something that I don't know if it's going to work out. And if it doesn't work out, ni modo, right? At least I tried it. I did it. Someone can't come and tell me like, oh, you coulda, shoulda, woulda. And at least I know that I could cross it off my list and say, all right, this didn't work. Let me move on to my next thing, right?
At the end of the day, we all go back
Yeah.
to our home and our lives and look at ourselves in the mirror,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
So, yeah, I feel you on that one. It's like an everyday challenge for me, to be honest.
See.
But it's, I love it when I hear people that are doing well, like, validate something that I go through, like, on a mission to be successful as well.
Yeah.
I'm like, these people, that's why I'm developing a deep love for this. Like, everyone has like this drive and a hustle. Everyone has a story.
Yeah.
Like, people out there might see you like FM carriers. Like there's more to that. There's a hustler and a network of hustlers that he inspired, and it rubs off, and now
Yeah.
there's a bunch of people moving forward.
Yeah.
You're creating jobs, like building
Well,
something from nothing.
You create jobs. You're also creating a different state of mind, I think. Especially when you start learning new stuff. Like Fernando says, there's a lot of stuff we don't know.
Hey, don't buy patio tables for podcasts.
Yeah, that was a learning experience, right?
Yeah. Whether it's a new system for the company, a new customer, a new situation, ¿verdad? So it's always, I think we're always adjusting. And always trying to make it better. Definitely always trying to make it better.
Yeah, there's always good in everything, even the bad. Like, that's actually, I'll surprise people on the gram next week with something in regards to that. It's all about perspective. Like, it could be bad, but like, it sounds corny. The glass is half empty or half full.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It is.
No matter what everyone thinks.
Yeah.
But to each person, based on their belief system, it becomes what they want it to be.
Yeah, every person is their own world, right? We got to learn not to try to change other people's minds.
Yeah.
I think it's important. I think you said it before, right? Is focus on yourself. All we could do is focus on what we could do, what we could control. And hopefully what we're doing motivates someone else to do the same thing, or at least they learn something from it, or we could teach them. I think something about my carnal and I is, we always share information. We never keep anything a secret, even though
Anything?
I think everything, we share it. Whatever it might be.
I'm gonna set up a little truth or dare game real quick.
But we share information because that's how I learned, right? I learned by learning from other people that were successful. I created a small inner circle from business owners, different fields. Construction. Got a good a friend that builds pools, builds homes. They do a lot of different types of work, but at the end of the day, it's still business. So everyone goes through the same stuff, right? They all got to deal with insurances. They got to deal with employees. They got to deal with contractors, finance, right?
Daily
budgeting,
problem solving.
Daily problem solving.
Yeah.
And it's always nice to pick up the phone and say, hey, man, I got this problem. How did you deal with it? And he gives me his point of view. And it's up to me at the end of the day if I want to take that advice or not, right? But at least I got some feedback. I think a big problem that we have is we're scared to ask for help. We're scared to tell someone, I don't know how to do it, right?
Or
hey,
prideful también.
Yeah, I want to start a podcast, Luis, but I don't know what to do. What kind of equipment should I get? Should I buy this table? What do you think?
Just do it and fuck up and
That's
find
right.
out.
Yeah.
Así
es.
Yeah.
But it's nice, to have that type of relationship. At the end of the day, you make your own decision. No one's here to tell you you should have done it. No, hey, you did it. Didn't work. Move on to your next task. Yeah.
And damn well they'll go on with their life as well. So
Yes.
imagine if you had to mold yourself to everyone's opinion daily.
No.
What the hell? You'd go crazy.
You go crazy, dude.
Just waking up in the morning, you wouldn't want to get out of bed.
Any hardships growing up that stuck with you that you think drove your hustle, or just as I'll leave it at that. Like,
Yeah.
I tend to add like 3 questions in one, and
No. Yeah, I'll start.
I'm learning to go with one at a time.
Yeah, I think personal struggle is I'm dyslexic. I got dyslexia. I always struggled through it going through school. Even when I started opening my business, it was a big issue that I had to deal with, right? But because of it, it definitely makes you work a lot harder than everyone else, right? You second guess everything that you do. You might check it 5 or 6 times, right? And it helps you create and fix issues, or at least see it in different types of view, right? Because you're always trying to tell yourself, okay, am I looking at this correctly, or should I be looking at it from a different corner, right? So I think everything that you see is more, 3-dimensional versus, just what it is. You see the same problem 3 or 4 different ways. So that's definitely one of something that I had to struggle with, and I still do. Um, but how I fixed it was by surrounding myself people that are better than me, right? You know, everyone around me is always smarter than I am. And the reason for it is because I want to feel comfortable that I could go to someone, right? I could go to Guillermo or anyone else in my team and say, hey, I got this problem. Can you help me go ahead and build this task or whatever it might be, right, that I'm trying to do. And that's the nice thing about that is those relationships, that teamwork, to work on your flaws and some of the issues that you might be facing since you were a kid. You know, we all can't be good at everything. It's impossible. And we don't know everything. But, you know, having the right people around you definitely helps.
How did you know you were dyslexic, or how did you even come into contact with the word? Like,
Yeah.
what are the characteristics of a dyslexic person?
Sure. So I think the hardest subject for me was biology. You know, used to get those big, thick books, trying to learn about, you know, cells, you know, and organisms and all that stuff. And, you know, I always struggled where we were in class and the teacher would tell you, hey, go ahead and read this next 4 paragraphs. You know, you guys got 20 minutes and then I'm going to start asking you questions. You know, those paragraphs for me, it would probably take me an hour, you know, to make sure that I comprehend, understand, filter that information so I really do understand it when someone else could pick it up in 20 minutes or 15 minutes. So, you know, I started having those problems, spoke to teachers. It was more, they saw it as, oh, you're just being lazy, right? You don't want to do the work, right? You don't want to read that, you know, 3 or 4 paragraphs. You don't want to answer the questions. So as I got older, unfortunately, it was, you know, in my 20s where I really realized, okay, what my problem was. And it started getting out a lot more. And I think social media has definitely helped, right? You know, people that have dyslexia, we love technology because we're always trying to figure out a way how it could actually help us. So now with technology, then it's definitely a lot easier.
So dyslexia, in a way, is just the way you intake
Information.
So you might love audiobooks then.
Audiobooks is definitely one of the biggest things that I love.
Okay.
I'll show you my audiobook collection. I have over 100 books.
I'm starting to wonder if I'm dyslexic. Because I thought dyslexic was like you see things backwards. Like,
And you do, that's a combination.
okay.
That's why sometimes it takes you longer to read the information because you might read a sentence and you read it at first and you think it means something, right?
But you need to connect it up.
And you're like, well, wait a minute, what did I just read? It doesn't has nothing to do with what I'm trying to understand.
I forget it right as soon as I read it.
Yeah,
So I read it like twice.
We do a lot of that in the office. He'll write an email.
Yeah.
And then go, hey, Jackson, read it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And you know, and we'll bounce ideas and go,
Yeah.
well, that doesn't sound right. Or this sounds.
Yeah.
You don't think it's ever confused with ADHD? Because like,
Well, it's very common that it goes hand in hand, right? So
how
you
do
could
you know
have
which
both.
one is the one? Like,
Well, you would probably have to get tested, right? But it's the same thing. Sometimes, you know, for myself, I can't stay put, right? I'm always very energetic.
Tell me.
Yeah. So you might be both, right? You can. But definitely, your biggest thing is if you're reading something and you have to read it 2 or 3, 4 times, and sometimes the words do change on you, or the first time you read them, and you're like, well, wait a minute, that's not exactly what I thought I was reading.
Yeah.
So maybe you might have some type of form of dyslexia.
Man, and it's not. And if I do, I don't see it like it's a bad thing.
No.
It's like that's my working manual.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if I know myself, you know yourself, then you know how to operate.
That's right. Well, we call it superpower. That's your superpower.
If you're not gonna know, you're gonna assume you something wrong with you and put yourself down.
That's
Maybe
right.
like, no, I have this, and this is
Yeah.
how I'm gonna deal with it.
Yeah. But you figure during the 90s, right? You know, the school system, they never talked about that. They never even questioned you or tested you. So I'm sure there was a lot of kids that were going through the same struggle that I was going through. Okay, they just said, hey, you know, he's just lazy, right? He doesn't want to do the work. You know, we told him to read, and he says he doesn't understand it, but he's just flojo, right? He doesn't want to do it. It's not that. It's just every person gets the information differently. Some are verbal, visual, right?
Mm-hmm.
It just depends how you get that information. Sometimes a combination of both, right?
Yeah.
So
I think there's a lot of like stigma. I'm assuming I use that word properly, based on like a common belief that leaders are always readers. So you get that in your mind, and you're like, I literally write down I'm gonna read 1 hour a day, right?
yeah,
But sometimes I don't get to it, and I'm leaning more towards the audiobooks. I
Yeah.
love audiobooks,
same here.
but
It's one of the best
so just
things.
embrace what works for you, right?
Exactly.
They look good right there, though, the books.
Oh yeah, yeah. And I'll tell you, I've done audiobooks, and then I'll go back on the hard copy and go over it, right? That's helped me also. And the nice thing about it, Luis, is once I actually understand something, I'll never forget it.
That's awesome.
You know.
Yeah. Do you have any favorite books, you guys? Motivation books? What's a book that changed your perspective on life or influenced?
Yeah.
Well, para mí, books, la verdad, no he leído mucho.
The Bible?
Not even the Bible.
Mm.
Pero I have gotten into a lot of the podcasts que me manda mi carnal. You know, Master Munoz, and there's several that just as I keep, I guess, learning new stuff about the industry, I tend to start looking at more and more of that stuff. Y como dice Fernando, especially with social media, it's very easy to find a lot of content. Y
And then it clicks.
and then it clicks. What helps it click, and I think it helps it click, and it helps you understand, como dices, ¿verdad? What's your superpower, or how do you take in this information, or how does it relate to what you're doing,
Yeah.
Y pues también te ayuda a entender que you're not the only one struggling with a lot of stuff.
Yeah, that helps a lot. You never know who's out there going through it, and they
Yeah.
just don't open up.
And most people don't, right? Because it's scary. It's scary to tell someone, "Hey, man, I don't understand what you're talking about," right? Oh, just read the manual. Here it is. And then you're reading the manual. You're like, I still don't get it, right? So then, what's the next thing is? Hey, you know what? Let me take you outside, or here, let me show you visually, right? What is it that I'm talking about? And let me go through the motions. It's like, look, step 1, step 2, step 3, right? And we love doing that too, right? Where we actually capture or we take photos of stuff with explanations, because some people love learning by pictures, and there's nothing wrong with it. I think that's great, but it's just understanding how people, absorb that information. But it's always hard to say, I don't understand. What are you talking about? Because no one wants other people to think that they're dumb, right? And I don't like using that word at all. It's more like, okay, how can I make sure that you retain that information? But if you don't tell me you understand, then I can't figure out another way to make sure that I could teach you correctly.
Yeah.
Y a veces that's hard, having someone tell you, like, hey, this is how I understand it. Even that sometimes is difficult, especially, talking to several drivers daily. You try to explain something, and you could hear it sometimes where they don't get it.
Yeah.
Y a veces it's hard to even get them to explain it to you, like, how is it that you, or what part of that don't you understand,
Like this, like describing the rainbow to a blind person.
Yes.
That you won't relate to.
Yeah.
It's
And like
not-
Fernando says, it's not that anyone is dumb or lazy. It's just, a veces, I think, maybe even how you're explaining yourself could be wrong.
That leads me into the next question. We were in communication, before this,
Yes.
and I'm thankful that you brought me up to speed on a little more about you, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I noticed you guys have a driver app. So since we were talking about that right now, how do you deal with? Is it welcomed by the drivers? Like, what's your biggest challenge having a driver app?
Yeah. And the reason we got it was because of how people learn, right?
Mm-hmm.
The app really came because people are more visual. They want to see the information versus over the phone or even text, right? Before then, we would use email a lot, but we found out very quickly that some people either don't like using it or they have trouble with it. So the app was definitely a solution for it. thanks to some of our drivers that came forward and they said, hey, ¿sabes qué, Fernando? I don't understand. Me están mandando el trabajo, pero I have problems with my email. I keep losing the emails.
Yeah.
You know, like I saw it the first time, pero se me desapareció, right? It's gone. I can't, and I don't know how to get it back. I might have deleted it. I don't understand. Or, hey, me mandaron un text message. I got the text, and I deleted the text, and I don't know where it's at. And we're like, okay, well, how do we fix this, right? And the app was the best thing that we could have came up with because it's very visual. And also documentation. Sometimes they would lose a BOL, sometimes they would lose a POD, which is understandable, right? You're shuffling stuff, you're driving, you're putting it next to you. The window's open, right? It's during the summer. You lose a POD or a BOL, and it's like, okay, what do I do now? So we said, okay, how can we fix that? All right, let's make sure that people could actually upload the paperwork as they're doing the work, right? So then if something happens where that piece of paperwork is lost or we can't get it, at least we have a digital copy. As long as the picture is good, then we're good.
Was that a challenge for your operation? Because some people don't want to upload all that. They see it like extra work.
Yeah.
Or some get paranoid, like, oh, you're tracking me. Like, how can you let them know that it's for the better of everyone? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think that was more of a one-on-one explanation for them. That wasn't something that we could just send as a blast email, right? Or a blast text. It was more, okay, who's having a problem and who is it that we need to spend the extra time, like Guillermo was saying here. And
how many one-on-ones are we talking about?
A lot of one-on-ones, dude.
He's done quite a bit of them. So.
We continue to improve, I think, on our one-on-ones. Even the way we help the guys. We have an amazing support system in the office, you know. We've created our own little videos with the help of the team, George in particular.
Hey, George.
George.
Hello, George.
Hey, George. Thank you for all the videos. Showing them the video and then talking to them one-on-one. I think one of the things that's been like a game changer, especially for the drivers that were hesitant to even use the app, was telling them, like, dude, there's nothing in the app that will make you lose your work or that you'll break the system in any way. So I think that gives them a little bit of confidence to say, I can't screw anything up.
Just push the buttons, you can't break it.
Just push it, you know? If you push it and then something happens, call me. I can look in the system and
required field, so don't let them proceed if it's not.
Yeah.
Okay.
We always use Facebook as an example. They're like, if you know how to use Facebook, yeah, I know how to use Facebook. Then you're good. Mm-hmm. It's the same thing, right? It's like, just imagine you're trying to find a friend. You're trying to find your load, right? And it's on there. Just click it, and your friend's gonna come up, and that's your load. You know, and that's kind of the way we approach it.
Or remind them there was a time they didn't even know how to back up a big rig.
That's right. Yeah.
You know, you could do that. You could do mostly anything tedious. You know.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
So, well, I'm glad that's working out for you. It's definitely a great tool. Yeah. You know, so long as everyone's on board. Can you tell us a little more about the operation? Describe it, like where you stand. Más o menos how many trucks, if you don't mind. A little flex, you know.
Yeah.
Humildemente.
Sí. Well, humildemente, we're running about 60 power units. Okay. 8 of those are company trucks, so they're company-owned trucks that we own and operate with company drivers. The rest are owner-ops. So we do have that combination, which is nice. And Guillermo here is a terminal manager off the Riverside Terminal that almost 30 power units are assigned to that he oversees. The rest of them are designated throughout the other 4 terminals that we have here in Southern California. We do nothing but intermodal freight, 53-foot containers, inbound and outbound out of the BNSF and the UP. That's definitely worked out very well for us because we do work with a huge amount of customers. Always our mission is to make sure that the drivers move efficiently, loaded, in and out. 90% of our freight is drop and hook. So what we try to do is, if the driver is not sitting around and he's moving, the driver's happy, right? Our customers are happy, and then us as a company continue to grow. So it's we look at the drivers that currently work with us as partners, right? We're partners because if he does well, we do well. Our customers are happy. So it's that balance that we're always trying to acquire. We are very, very selective on the customers that we work with. We don't work with any customer that just calls us. We always ask for all the right information because at the end of the day, it doesn't matter that I get that business. If my guys don't want to do it, then why am I wasting my time, right? So I always see it as, okay, well, would I send my company trucks in there? If I know I want to send my company trucks, then I'm going to send an owner out. And that's how I make the decisions. Yeah.
Or do you pitch it to them? Hey, we're considering taking this. What do you guys think? No?
No.
Fernando, you already know based on all the years.
Fernando's had this saying since the beginning. If an owner-op says, hey, the company guy's doing something easier, we will give him the entire dispatch del company guy al owner-op. So there's no bias.
No bad blood.
There's no bad blood.
No entra la negatividad.
No.
Once you get that, then people act resentful and maltratan el trabajo, and that's your reputation on the line.
Right.
Yeah, we're very transparent. So, Guillermo could tell you. See, someone says, hey, this guy is moving some freight and it's easier. No problem. Here it is. We'll give it to you.
Nomás the deal is it has to be ran the way the company guy was dispatched. ECIS, go hunting for empties. You're going to go hunt for empties.
Oh, no, actually, I was, not bad.
Yeah, sorry, man. Hey,
you're going to activate Action Jackson. Go whoop that ass.
Now that I have all the details, it's not going to work out.
Mejor give me back what I had.
No, how about you finish this one, and now the lesson learned is don't assume.
Yeah.
We're all equal here.
Yeah, 100%.
Sí. Y la verdad, sometimes we push the company guys, quite a bit. But at the end, it's all fair,
It's teamwork.
It's all teamwork. I mean.
So there's abundance, there's a good flow. So that minimizes shady drivers coming in and, you don't collect McDonald's deluxe breakfast on your dispatch table and no proposals.
No. So all our dispatching is done from a different office. We don't have the dispatchers or load planners in the same office where our drivers come in and turn in paperwork and stuff like that.
Oh, is that strategic or a coincidence?
It's coincidence. It worked out that way.
It kind of worked out like that. They walk in, they really just see me.
Yeah, but they're not in the same place, right? They don't really see each other very often as far as face-to-face. Everything is over the phone or even FaceTime, if they choose to. But they're not in the same space. So we don't have that problem. We've never had that problem since day one where there's any type of favoritism or like, hey, le voy a llevar un lonche, to get a load, but they're not there,
But that can be good and bad, right? Have you seen a meme where there's this Chihuahua that's like aggressive and the teeth are showing? And, so dispatch over the phone. That's dispatch over the phone.
Yeah.
And then dispatch in person, the Chihuahua smiling like.
See, well, I got something for you, Luis, that you still don't know.
What?
All my dispatchers and load planners are females. They're all girls.
Oh, okay.
So there's no testosterone between two males.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So they're all female. They're great. They're amazing. Super smart. Very fast and efficient. I gotta hand it to them, to the whole team, to all the load planners and driver managers. They definitely kick butt.
What challenges does an intermodal carrier face? 'Cause like in the ports, like the nightmare is per diem, demurrage, closed areas and whatnot. What is there to be expected as a challenge in the rail?
We have some of that too. You know,
just different names.
Yeah, very similar, pero
per diem, last free days also.
We call them last free days. Same thing, your stuff notifies at the ramp. You got to get it out, and then the ramp, is reducing the time that you have to keep the box there. So as soon as that stuff notifies, we got to get on it and start moving it.
Yeah,
I believe the rail has like a midnight, right? That's when it cuts off sometimes.
Yeah, so pretty much, for the most part, if it notifies, let's say today, you got to get it out by tomorrow because on Monday will be in storage. And depending if it's the BN or the UP, the storage, you're talking about $140, $150 per day.
So come Monday, what's the exact timestamp? 12:01 a.m.
12:01.
12:01.
Yeah, that's it.
12:01. You bought yourself another day.
Yeah, yeah. Same thing with the empties, right? Because such a huge amount of our freight is drop and hook. Once the customer says, "Hey, your box is empty, you got to come pick it up," right? The expectation for a lot of our customers is within 24 hours. They want that box out of their yard, right? Or some of those customers will start charging storage themselves because they need the space. They have more freight coming in, so it's understandable. So that's really the biggest issue within the intermodal, just like anything, is getting the equipment out of the UP or BNSF out of their lots. And then once it's empty, making sure that you're removing that equipment, those empties, out of the customer slots, because real estate is expensive here in California and it continues to go up. So, lot spaces are very valuable.
Has there been a customer upset and they want to start charging you storage for having their empty while you're empty on their property? Or
you know what? We've been pretty lucky where...
is that a thing?
No, definitely. Okay. A customer will charge you if they told you to pick it up and you haven't picked it up, even though the rail might be charging their per diem for the box, right, and chassis. The customer technically could charge you for the spots that you're taking if they have freight coming in from the port, right? Because a lot of that freight, it comes from the port, it gets transloaded into 53-foot intermodal boxes, and then we go ahead and pick it up, and then we ingate it into the UP or the BNSF that goes in through the 48 states, right? Yeah.
The intermodal part, so we can get a clear picture, it's mostly like west to east, right?
That's correct.
So it comes on the vessel, transloaded, and now it finishes the journey across the nation. And then depending on those lanes across each state.
So it's a nice relationship between port drivers and intermodal, because if you guys don't move that freight from the port to the DCs, then I can't pick up any freight and on my 53-foot containers and ingate it into the Union Pacific or BNSF, right? Mm-hmm. So if you guys aren't moving freight, I'm not moving freight.
If both parties are so essential, then why is there from my understanding, such a big price difference, like when you do rail work?
Yeah.
We could do the same distance, Commerce to Ontario, and it will be a drastically different price.
Yeah. And because of it is the intermodal is always looked at as a cost saving method versus over the road. So once you guys take that product into a DC, the distribution center makes a decision and says, all right, do I want to send it over the road or do I want to send it in intermodal, right? So when they choose intermodal is because it's cheaper than over the road. So unfortunately, our pricing is always going to be less than over the road. And that's how the customers see it, right? So, you really can't compare the harbor with the intermodal because it's always considered a cost-saving method of transporting your goods.
We got these goods. There's different ways.
Yeah.
Literally like overnight it with FedEx or do the regular mail,
snail mail.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and where the snail mail, because it's going to take a lot longer for your product to go from here to New Jersey, right? Versus you doing it over the road and maybe teens. Mm-hmm. So you're cutting the time in half, right? So that's, that's definitely FedEx, next day.
Yeah. Definitely big customers must love that rail because they got volume, so they could afford to wait for the rest to catch up, and it's that cycle. Once they get it going, I think they're good.
Yeah.
But we're thankful for the work regardless, right?
Absolutely.
I think you guys got to know that, though, because you go into that feeling of, they're robbing me, but you're here confirming that rail is cheaper than out of the terminal directly.
And that's how the customer sees it, right? When they're moving their product, if they know, let's say for instance they're expecting 400 or 500 containers from the port for the distribution center. Once they transload those, 20s, 40s, or 48s into 53s, they got to make a decision. Okay, how quickly do I need to get this product to the destination, right? If they select intermodal, is because they're trying to save money, right? Because it's cheaper. just like USPS, you le pones its stamp, right? So that's the most cost effective, because I'm gonna send 400 letters, right? But if I'm only gonna send 2 or 3, then I'm gonna send them over the road, and I'm gonna pay that premium pricing to get it there next day.
Hey, the rail has been very cost effective lately, even to get yourself a big screen TV.
Yeah.
Cookies.
5-finger discount. Yeah.
Dude, cookies, tires.
Nah,
You,
hey, for that
you name it.
For those big screen TVs, that's a 10-finger discount, bro. And maybe 15 if you occasionally gotta push it with, you know.
Hasta recently, we had one where it was housing.
Wow.
California is expensive, man. People
Yeah,
living
yeah.
in containers.
Yeah, someone opened up a container,
Yeah.
and there was Oreo cookies in there, and they were living and eating Oreo cookies in that container.
Where was this at?
at Union Pacific.
Yeah, at the UP.
Yeah, we didn't realize that had
And it was
happened.
one of yours?
It was one of our containers. We didn't realize what had happened until somehow, I guess, they sealed it back up.
Oh man.
Yeah, and when they got to the customer opened it, and they're like, "Hey, we're not taking this load. Go ahead and take it. We're refusing it." We're like, "What do you mean? What's going on?" Someone's living in it. And we're like, "What?"
Those sleeping
What do you mean
bags.
yeah, the sleeping bag.
you know.
So we get pictures, and sure enough, someone was sleeping in there eating all the
did it.
cookies.
He didn't know it was moving around in transit, or was he
I don't
just
know.
on a sick one? Or
I don't know how he did it.
We don't know. We still don't know that. I even asked the driver. I said, "Hey, dude, did they really check the container?" I said, "Cause
banging?
I said maybe someone's still in there. You know." I'm like, just have them check it.
Yeah, I don't know at what point or where exactly, someone decided to use it as a temporary hotel.
That's an interesting story. Yeah, once I lived over the 710 freeway, bro. Like for a short period of time.
Yeah.
Or whatever route they took.
Yeah.
That's an interesting story. Imagine what would happen there. What kind of claim would that be if he passed away in there in transit and now it's in your possession?
Well, hopefully that never happens.
Yeah.
I haven't heard of that happening, and I hope it doesn't.
Cookies are good, right?
Yeah.
Shit.
Yeah, you had some good snacks.
Do you have your CDL?
I do not have my CDL. I definitely know how to drive stick shift, but I do not have my CDL. Really, the one that does most of the movements in our yard or for emergencies is my brother here.
But he also does
Jackson.
not have a CDL.
I do not have a CDL.
So everything is within our yard.
Allegedly.
That's correct.
Yes.
That's correct.
All right. Yeah, because some people see that like but I guess starting out, most guys have their CDL because you gotta keep pushing, cover shit, But I guess the fleet's so big, you could always find someone to cover it, right?
Well, but even then, I've had conversations with Fernando where I'm like, dude, I need to get my CDL. I said, there's cases where if we gotta switch a truck, move a super hot container, I mean, I think it'd be worth it.
Yeah.
To have a CDL just available.
I agree.
Okay.
I
Just wanted your input on that, on how you feel about
I got
having
close.
that extra tool.
No, yeah. I think that's very important. Him and I have always discussed. He's always been the one that's really been. You know what? I'm gonna get it. I think it's important, like you mentioned. If you need someone to do something, you might as well just do it yourself, which is great.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for answering that. What was your growth strategy, and what's the best way to avoid? I hope I pronounced this word right. Plateau. When you reach that growing point and something's gotta either change or you're gonna stay there. How did you know there was that point? And what action did you take?
Yeah. Personally, with FM Logistics, we've always tried to find a way to evolve, right? So the way it changed was technology. With technology internally here with us, our TMS system was also one of the biggest motivators to continue to grow. If you have the software technology to keep track of your customers, your loads, your payroll, then it's easier to scale. But it's very expensive. And I think a lot of smaller companies, or even companies my size, might even be larger, right? They might say, well, if it's always worked, why change it, right? Why spend this extra money in software but it really takes you to another level. It takes you another level. I think the functionality, the tools, um, the service definitely improves. So technology has definitely been big with us, and I think that's definitely something that's helped us break that plateau and continue to grow year after year.
Yeah, you gotta embrace change, right?
You
Or
have to.
get left behind.
And it's scary. I mean, it's scary. You can't just call someone up and say, hey, how do I do it to make sure I don't fail? No one could give you that answer. You're going to fail. It's going to happen.
And since you went the technology route, do you feel that it's like a one and done situation, or once you tap into software, like you always have to be on top of it? It requires maintenance and all that. Or?
Yeah, no, I mean it definitely requires maintenance. It's expensive. There's always upgrades. There's always features that you want to add, right? But once you add technology, I think it opens up a big window, and you see through that window, and you realize, wow, there's so much that I don't know, right? So just when you get to that point where you think, oh, you know what? I think I've seen it all. I know what to expect. And you add something like technology, software, and then you realize, like, man, there's so much more out there. So February, right now, I'm celebrating my 20-year anniversary since I joined transportation.
This month?
Yeah, this month.
Congratulations.
So 20 years in transportation.
We'll do a high five right here.
Yeah.
High five.
Hola.
Sí, man. Gracias, gracias. And check this out. I'm spraying it with Luis. Beautiful.
Nice. Well, I'm flattered, This is a 20th anniversary celebration podcast.
That's
for
right.
FM Logistics. What's up?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Okay, moving on. You got into trucking at 20. Oh, you got a call there. How many missed calls do you have since the whole operation thing? You left it over there?
My phone's,
better, huh?
yeah, my phone's behind the camera and silent.
We got a team that's helping us right now.
Sí. So you got into it at 22, no driving. So you've always seen it like everything from a business perspective, as far as like, because most people, let me rephrase that. We're all business minded when we tap into the industry, but it is believed that you have to start by being a driver.
Yeah.
So you were never a driver, no CDL. So tell us a little bit about the journey, how you ended up in trucking to begin with. Maybe all your other hustles,
Yeah. So, my brother and I have had different ventures, right? To a point where we actually had vending machines. So we ran a small company, 8 vending machines. And before then, we did a little bit of everything: home theater systems, plasma screens. We've definitely tapped into different types of businesses that we've learned something about. I think the biggest thing that we learned is relationships and how to deal with people. More of the communication side, right, with customers. We would do a lot of the work ourselves, so we understood what it takes to accomplish something, right? At the age of 22, I had an opportunity to work for a trucking company, night shift. Worked from 2 p.m. to 1 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 2 o'clock in the morning, which was nice. That gave me opportunity to continue working with my brother during the day, doing our little business of vending machines and home theater, which was great. But it really opened up my eyes on how big transportation was, and I really loved it. I loved it, and I craved it because every day was completely different, right? And then just year after year, I moved to a few different companies. Finally, I ended up working for a big IMC company, and moved up the ranks. At the age of 35, the company decided to centralize to Chicago, and I was facing that position where I said, okay, do I go work for another company, or do I continue my entrepreneurship and open up my own trucking company? Sold my house, sold cars that I had, and pretty much anything that I could sell that was worth anything I sold. Got some money together and opened up our first company in 2015 with a partner. First year, we didn't make any money. Any money that came in was right with payroll and just expenses Literally, we were just living on whatever our savings were. Second year, we're doing a lot better. Got more freight. We're able to grow. Bought a company truck. The first company truck was bought in the second year in operation, and then just started scaling. 2018, I decided to open up a second company, which was FM Logistics. It was primarily going to be focused on highway and shuttles between warehouse to warehouse.
Okay.
And I started doing very well, and I had to make a decision on where my focus was going to be. Just like anything, right? It's difficult to focus on a lot of different things and really be successful. You're trying to do two things at once. One of them is going to fall apart. So I had to make that decision, and I focused on FM Logistics. So I ended up separating from my partnership, went 100% on FM Logistics. So from 2018 to right now, 2022, we have a significant amount of growth since then. Yeah.
You've always been good at transitioning and evolving.
We've been trying, yeah.
Because also, do you want to go a little bit more back to where the first job you saved up to the hair clipper and always levels,
Yeah, levels. Grew up in Boyle Heights, East LA, and as I mentioned before, there's not a lot of role models there, or a lot of people that could help you enter the entrepreneurships in the 80s and 90s, right? There was definitely a lot of gangs during that time, a lot of drugs. It was during that time where, the whole war on drugs was going on. So there was a lot of chaos, especially right there in Boyle Heights during those years. But I decided to focus my energy and time on things that I could control. And my first job was working at a liquor store on 8th Street. I was a stock boy. I would stock beer. That liquor store got robbed a few times. I was there, and my brother was there a few times. One occasion, my brother had to hide in one of the refrigerators while the store was getting robbed.
Wow.
So there's definitely a lot of stories there. Saved some money, bought trimmer and buzzard the wall to cut hair. I learned how to cut hair for the neighborhood. I started cutting hair for all my friends at my parents' home at doorstep. Continued to save some money there.
Hey, how much were the cuts back then?
Well, if you went to a barber, you're probably paying about $8 plus tip, $10, right? I was charging everyone anywhere between $4 to $5, but I always had that one friend is like, "Hey, Fern, I only have $2, man, but I want to go see my girlfriend. Can you hook me up?" Yeah. It's like, "All right, man, you got $2, Skyler. Go ahead and put it right here. I'll give you a nice little buzz," right? That was the beginning of the fades.
And he got that's why he got the crooked fades, the patchy fades.
The patchy fades.
Hey, you showered, you got what we call the survivors, the little pelitos throwing gang signs and shit.
Yeah. So we always hook someone up, right? And we continue to transition from there. So save the money from the liquor store, save the money from the hair cutting. I wanted to continue to grow, so I joined an occupational center in East LA. Also learned how to do mobile electronics. I learned sales finance, which was really nice.
You put yourself through school.
I put myself through school, still going through school, right? I was still going to my junior high school. This is before I even went into high school. So it was night classes and weekend classes. So I would go to school, I would get home. Sometimes my parents were able to drop me off. If not, during that time, I used to take the RTD bus. You would take the RTD bus.
Why do you smile when you say that?
Well, because it was a lot of great memories, man. Take the bus. Back then, you'd get a transfer, physical transfer. I think you would pay 10 or 15 cents to get that transfer. And, it was definitely different. Riding on the bus, public transportation, from one place to another. If you had a car, it would probably take you maybe 15 minutes to get there. Public transportation, it would probably take me 4 hours, right? If you miss the bus, then you're screwed. You're looking at 5 hours. So those are definitely times that I remember and have definitely helped mold me. Yeah.
Where was Action Jackson during this time?
A little bit behind, although I did get a little bit of the trickle. My brother was always, a little older than me, so, he was the first one to go ride the bus. He was the first one to, basically I was still 2 years behind, so by the time he made it to high school, I was still in junior high. But still, pretty much following behind him, the whole time. I was very fortunate to get some of that trickle effect, after him. Started going to occupational, and he goes, "Hey, I know how to wire car systems." I said, "Cool, let me help you. Let me look. Let me see.
Yeah.
Let me," so I've always been there with him. He's definitely been leading the pack always, but I've always been there with him, and I think it's cool. I've always found it very interesting, very, I don't think I've ever went in there going, "Oh, I want to learn something." It's always just, it catches your interest, and you don't even feel like it's a learning thing. It's just, you're just,
like a job.
It doesn't feel like a job, You're hanging out with your brother, you're doing all these things that, hours and hours and hours go by, and then you're just like, "Oh, damn, I should go home." So
Old school style. The lights came on.
Yes. That was the call. Yeah, the lights come on, dude. You got to go home. So it's always definitely been that way, He'll start something, and I'll get a call, and it's like, "Hey, Jackson, we're doing this." Okay,
It goes way
let's
back
do
to
it.
Jackson.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The Jackson goes
Yeah, so we work for a small company, audiovisual company.
probably a little bit after occupational.
Yeah, they used to do concerts, concerts, a lot of live video recording for shows. So we learned about wiring, lighting, sound, load boards with the mixers.
Yeah.
All that cool stuff, right? And our boss at the time, or the owner of the company, had so many people, a lot of freelancers, come and help and build the rigs and lighting and all that stuff. He couldn't remember people's names. So his solution was he started calling everyone Jackson. Didn't matter if you were male or female, right?
Jackson.
But if he saw you, he was just like, "Jackson, I need you to do this, build this rig." He would see another person, another freelancer. He couldn't remember her name, right? "Jackson, I need you to do this at the door," right? So everyone was Jacksons, and the funniest thing about that is, you were just okay with it, right? So someone called you Jackson, you're like, "Oh, he's talking to me, so let me go ahead and do it," right? And it just always stuck with us. So everywhere we've gone, it's always been like Jackson.
All you Jacksons out there, make sure you comment, like, and subscribe. Diles, Jackson. Diles.
Subscribe.
Subscribe. Thank you, Jacksons.
Íralos. Partnership stuff. Sometimes it's your family. How do you feel about that? Any partnership advice?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, always be transparent. I think that's the most important thing. Especially my carnal here. Anything that I promise him, I do. If I tell him I could do something, I'll do it. Even if I'm gonna lose on it, but if I told him, "Hey, this is the way it's gonna work out, and this is what's gonna benefit you," then I accomplish it. Why? Because other opportunities, other things are gonna happen that maybe we both benefit, right? And that's what you're always planning for. It's the next one, right? I think the biggest misconception with a lot of new entrepreneurs, and it doesn't matter if it's your family member or not, is they want to hit it big on that first one, right? There's an opportunity, they want to touch it, and they want to hit it big, right? I think maybe now with social media, it's become very popular and very easy to say, next day millionaire, right? Week, a month, whatever it might be. In reality, it doesn't work like that. It takes a lot of time, a lot of years, right? It really does. You figure, FM Logistics has been going on 6 years now, and really now I feel like this is where we're gaining some traction 6 years in. But no one really sees all the work that we put in before that. The first company they opened was in 2015. So really from 2015 to 2018, to me, it was a learning curve, right? I was really learning how to run a company, how to grow, how to be a good CEO. Now from 2018 on, now I feel like I'm really gaining some ground. And I think that's the toughest part, right? It's always nice to say, hey, you know what, I'm working on this, I'm doing that. But people are always asking you 1 or 2 weeks later, hey, so how's your business doing? How's your venture doing? And if you tell them, hey, man, it's not going very well. Oh, man, I told you not to waste your time, right? And I think no one wants to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I didn't waste my time. I didn't waste it with a negative person like you.
That's right.
That's the right answer.
Yeah,
I
no,
know,
and
100%.
it is, you know, it is easy to get a lot of negativity. There's been times, you know, late in the evenings, I told my brother, man, I go, people ask like, hey, what do you do now? And I'm like, I don't even want to explain it to them because it's just, it's too hard to explain, or I guess too hard to get them to understand. So I just tell them, I've been busy. You know?
So they want you to put a title on it, like what exactly you do with him?
Well, and not necessarily just with him, like the whole transportation, the whole transportation thing. There's so many people who don't understand anything about it, you know? They just know that there's a truck on the freeway and it brings stuff or takes stuff, and that's kind of it, you know? So sometimes they start asking a little bit, and then you just see their eyes kind of glaze over, and then you're like, okay, let's just end there.
Yeah, it's too much information.
It's too much information to explain, you know? So it sometimes it gets a little exhausting, either because they don't understand or they don't want to understand, you know? They just...
They want the easy answer.
They
It's
want
like,
the easy answer.
I'm doing great. I'm a millionaire now. Doesn't
You know,
work like
especially
that.
when they go, hey, well, you guys are out there, you know, 14, 16 hours sometimes. You know, so people start asking like, hey, well, what are you doing? Where you been?
Yeah.
How come you're not available on the weekends? You know, like stuff like that. So sometimes it gets a little hard to explain, but
Yeah, because at this point you probably feel like explaining is the same as trying to convince, and you kind of have your mind made up.
Yeah.
yeah.
So you mentioned transparency.
Yeah.
That really helps, you think, because like envy, or what would I say, or the feeling that you're being left out, or you're holding out. That happens a lot with family members. You know what I mean? So it's like transparency helps a lot, like so that you guys don't feel like you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That no
No,
one's upping someone else.
and at least from my point of view, I don't think I've ever felt left out. I've always done all kinds of projects with my brother, you know, and that's why I think, like he says, transparency. You know, I think that goes for good, and it also goes for bad. I mean, there's times I've had to go to him and go, dude, we're getting killed with 30 boxes that went into storage, you know. And that's horrible news, you know, because you start multiplying numbers, and you see that we're not doing well. I mean, it's you know, it's depressing. It's depressing. It like it makes you feel like all your work that you did was for nothing, you know. Like, so when it's transparent, you know what you're getting yourself into. You also know that all the hard work that you've put in is starting to show. You know, but yeah, I think transparency is very
for
important.
good and bad, right? And I think that's exactly what he's saying is, you know, there's transparency with all the good stuff, what everyone wants to hear, but the bad stuff is the hard part, right? If you're, like he says, if you're putting in so many hours and then at the end you're getting killed because of whatever it is, right? Storage, per diem, you know, whatever it might be, and things are just not planning your way, you still got to communicate it and say, hey, man, you know what? You know, we got to find a solution for it. Yeah.
Yeah, well, if it was easy, you already know how that ends.
Yeah.
Everyone would.
Do it.
Yup. You mentioned earlier you went all in, right?
Yeah.
Did you mention the amount you came up with
Yeah, so...
of that gamble?
Yeah, the gamble was $500,000. So I have $500,000 to start the first company in 2015. I could tell you that the whole thing went fast. It went fast.
It sounds like a lot.
It sounds like a lot, but it's really not, because, you know, an operation takes a lot of money. We take for granted everything that we currently have, right? Lights that we have, internet, right? Laptop equipment. I mean,
Salary,
the juice, right? The sodas for the refrigerator. Everything takes money. you're meeting customers, right? There's a lot of things that you got to do. Sometimes you got to build contracts. You got to pay people to get those contracts made for you, especially if you're brand new. Everything takes money. So just imagine a full year with zero income coming in. So it dries up very, very fast. And it was definitely very scary, especially because we got to the point where, in all reality, the whole 500 was going to disappear. But I was never going to give up. I would have probably went out and got a loan, or I would have done something, but I would have continued. And maybe that's something now people would say, oh, of course, right? Because it worked out. But I could promise you, at that moment, you don't know. You have no idea what if you're doing the right thing or not.
So it looked like you would ended up in zeros, but you were able to save it, right?
We
So
were
it
able
was
to
one of
save
those
it.
dips, and
That's right.
boom. Like, que bueno, right?
And
that
people-
plane's about to hit, and you save it.
See? And people tell you, right? I had a lot of business owners tell me that. Say, hey, Fernando, you got to keep at it. Just when you realize that you're going to give up, don't. Because you're almost there, and that's when it literally goes right back up, right? Yeah. Just when you think you're going to crash and burn and say, you know what? The hell with everything.
It's very easy to think like that when you're feeling it.
Like, yes. I mean, especially, when you're by yourself, right? Or your spouse or whatever it might be. No one wants to talk about those dark moments. But we all get there. And if you do talk about them, not everyone could relate, right? Or the advice that people give you are not the right advice, right? For instance, I got a lot of people that try to give me advice on business, and they've never ran a business. I find a lot of people, and it's always the first ones that want to give you advice without you even asking, right? That come and say, hey, you should do this, you should do that. You should go with this strategy. And
there's that saying that you shouldn't take advice. Genesis Uribe, from one of the episodes, I forget the number, but she mentioned it, like, don't take advice from someone you wouldn't trade places with.
Right.
So, sorry to interrupt.
No. That's exactly right. And that's always the first thing is like, okay, well, it's easy to repeat something that you read in a book or you heard somewhere. But if you're physically not running a company and it's a successful company and you haven't been in business longer than 10 years, then potentially your advice is really not founded. Even at this point where I'm at right now, unless someone asks me for my advice, I won't give it, right? Because I still feel like I'm not validated just to go out there and say, you should do this, you should do that, you should do that, to make sure that you're successful.
Also, I was thinking, not validated, but I was thinking maybe your opinion would steer them away from the experience they're meant to have.
Right.
Maybe they're meant to have a temporary failure, and that will be the best advice, their experience. Yeah. And then you steer them away from that, and then the whole butterfly effect.
Yeah.
Because, Fernando had to go and tell him
not to do it.
And most people don't listen anyways.
Right?
I mean, I've had people come to me, ask me for advice, and I'll tell them, I'll literally I'll lay out the whole brick road for them, right? Leave all the crumbs, like start here, and you're gonna end there.
Mejor que Google Maps.
They still won't follow it. They won't follow it. They won't follow the crumbs that I'm leaving for them, right? They'll try to find their own way, and then they're surprised why it doesn't work out. And that's happened multiple times. So it's,
Hey, Jackson, some people don't listen, huh?
They don't. I've seen it. That's what I'm saying.
I told Fernando put his phone on silent, but he had it right here on vibrating on the table.
Exactly.
Esa gente, man.
Look, it had to happen to me, so then I'm like, he was right. Let me go ahead and let me move it to the side.
I just had to throw it in there, Yeah. But moving on, before things get tense. One more thing about partnerships. Do you think some people jump into partnerships because deep down they feel afraid of doing it alone? Or
for sure.
They feed off each other's energy, or what?
Oh, I think at first when you're looking for a partnership, is always a good intent, right? You're always trying to find someone that has a different talent than you do. So if someone is better operational and you're better on the admin or financial side, that's a great partnership. And that's something that sometimes people don't consider, right? Because if you have two people that are good at the same thing, then what's the point of the partnership, right? I mean, the whole point is someone else is picking up the slack that unfortunately you know yourself, and you got to be honest with yourself, you just can't do, right?
Yeah.
Or you haven't mastered it yet. And that's a great partnership. For instance, my brother here, he is phenomenal when it comes to hands-on. I mean, he could literally touch anything and just figure it out and fix it. Not with the fingers.
Anything mechanical. Anything mechanical.
Mechanical.
Okay.
My brain's more mechanical. Yeah.
Yeah. Mechanical, anything that actually breaks of any kind, even if you've never seen it before, right? He could just, somehow figure out how it functions, and he fixes it. I don't have that, right? So I think that's the reason that we've been able to cope and work very well. And that's the same thing with the rest of our team.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a good tip. Like identifying, I think you got to be good at identifying too.
Yeah. We just got to be honest with yourself.
Yeah. And he's 100% on that. You have to know when to say, you know what, dude, that's not something I'm good at, And you could be good at 100 things, but if you're being asked to do something, you have to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, dude, that's not for me. I don't, that's not where I want to go. That's not what I want to do. So,
yeah. Do you guys? It's worked out fine and all that. But overall, we all have something we look up to, or that we, whether we pray to it or we just speak it into existence. What do you guys believe in?
Well, for myself, I'm super positive. I think positive energy is very important for me.
And real?
Yeah. So I'm always talking about positive, right? Since I wake up early in the morning, positive mindset. I don't like focusing on anything negative, even people, right? If I get the sense that certain people are negative, I'll take myself out of that pocket and move myself. I think that has a lot to do with it. Because the minute you start going towards the negative, it's not that things go wrong. It's just that you're not in the right mindset to make the right decisions. So things work out. Mm-hmm. So that's...
Yeah, it's like, think of it. You're thinking of a red car, you see the red car.
Yeah.
You're thinking of reasons to be mad, you stay mad.
You're going to find a lot of little reasons. You start nitpicking almost.
So whatever you think of the most, it has influence.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So for myself, it's positive, super positive. Everyone has a way of staying positive. For myself is being alone. I love being by myself. Every single day, 2 or 3 hours, just so I could reset, focus, put myself in the right state of mind, and then go out there and make sure that I spread that positive energy across. So if someone comes to me with a problem or the sky is falling, it's like, okay, well, let's hold up. Let's look at it. What happened? Okay, is it in our control? If it is, okay, let's find a solution. But if it's out of our control and there's really nothing that we could have done for it to happen, then let's not waste our energy there, right? Let's think for the next time, what can we do different?
So does that involve meditating during that time, or what do you consider that meditating?
I do consider meditating. I love the beach. I've always spent a lot of time in the beach. I do that all the time. I'll literally just go out there, sit by myself, with my own thoughts, and just think. Sometimes, people say it's very difficult to concentrate, but if you do it every single day, it just gets easier and easier and easier.
Concentrate on what? During meditation, or
just focus. I like putting my
when you
mindset
go out
just
there,
blank.
Okay.
It's just blank.
Yeah, that sounds like an art.
It takes time. Yeah.
It's really loud in here sometimes.
And that's why you wanna reset it, right? I see it as a reset.
Okay.
You're resetting it because there's so many things going on, and at least for myself, it helps me also when I go sleep. Right, when I go to sleep, once you know how to reset yourself, I could literally shut my brain off and then just knock out.
It's hard for me when I'm excited about the next day.
Yeah.
It runs over and over, and I'm like, I don't even want to go to sleep, to be honest.
But that means that you're doing what you're supposed to do. That's the way we should all feel. It's the excitement.
That's the right way to stay up, not on a sick one. You know, things have changed around here.
Yeah.
And was it always that way with you and with you enjoying your solitude?
Yeah, I think it's always been part of me since I was very, very young. Um, I don't know. It's just something that I've always done, like being by myself. So even though my brother and I do spend a lot of time, we always find a way to kind of do our own thing, right? And reset. So that's always been somewhat natural. I think the biggest difference is where you do it. To me, I found myself that when I'm in the beach, it helps me and it's easier. And it didn't matter where I lived. I would still drive to the beach by myself, 2 hours of traffic, no matter what I was. And I would do it on Sundays. Now that I'm closer, well, it's a lot easier. But that was just the way that I found myself to, function a lot better.
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks for sharing. What about you, Jackson?
For me, the drives, dude.
Drives.
Driving. You
Okay.
drive,
Occasionally getting lost on the way to a podcast.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, that was my fault.
following.
Yeah.
No, but driving out, turn off the radio and just drive by yourself, gather your thoughts or quiet your mind, that helps with a lot, Like you said, sometimes it's loud in here,
Yeah.
especially after a long day. It's really loud. So either on the way home or on the way to the office, you have that time. So that usually helps for me. And same thing on the weekends, I'll still go for a drive, even if it's to go get coffee in Santa Barbara. Like, I'll drive,
Yeah.
but that it's not, the destination's not the target, like the target is the drive, to have that quiet,
the
quiet
process.
the process, yes, the quiet space for 2 hours, so it just that's my way of.
So you were all different, but we seek a good outcome overall.
Yeah.
Just different methods.
Exactly.
Who was your idol growing up?
Idol, I don't think I ever had an idol. I don't even have an idol now. But there was definitely people that I would look up to. There was very important people growing up as a kid. One of them was a boss of mine for a short time. I also worked for a beer distributing company. And, the president of sales was someone that I spent a lot of time with. I started working there also very short span, but young also. And I was able to spend some time with him, and he was able to teach me just by, following him and being with him on how he closed deals, how he, worked out relationships with different customers. On the beer distribution side, you would have a lot of manufacturers come and try to pitch you to cover or for you to carry their products. So I had a chance to meet a lot of them, sit in the meetings, how he closed those deals, and I learned a lot just by listening and paying attention. So for me, he's a very important person that I've always looked up to because of what he allowed me to experience and learn. So it's always been people that I've touched or I've reached out to and they've helped me grow. I think at the end of the day, those are the people that I look up to.
Oh, thank you. How about you?
Well, for one, my brother's someone that I look up to. I think I've always have. But a little funny story about that. I got the opportunity to work with the same boss.
Oh, okay.
Different method, like you said, but ultimately, I think we both learned a little bit from him that to this day, I think we still practice and we still, appreciate, because like he says, you're especially growing up in Boyle Heights, you don't get to talk to people who are involved in business decisions, planning, working with a lot of people. You just don't, you don't get those opportunities. So he was able to provide a window for us to see something outside of Boyle Heights, something
that
else.
Little seed that planted.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the relationship was different with him. So this person that we're talking about, he would get into arguments with him, right? And then he would call me and he's like, "Hey, you gotta talk to your brother.
said,
Man.
"What's
You gotta
wrong?
calm him down.
What's wrong with your brother?"
What's wrong with your brother? He talks back to me." And I was like, and I would tell him, like, "Look, I can't control my brother, man. That's just who he is."
And but yeah, he was a person who showed us a lot about negotiating and a lot of just personal organization, I think, also. But one of them that was pretty funny, that he would say, "Go in there and negotiate this deal. This is what we need to do." And then you come back and you go, "No, he doesn't want to do that." Go back in there.
Try again.
Go try again. And not just business deals, even projects. We would do projects with him, and then he would say, "This is what we have to do." "Well, I don't know how to do that." "We'll figure it out. What do you need?" And he's one of the persons that I think planted that seed of the fact that you don't know how to do something shouldn't stop you. It shouldn't stop you. It should just kind of and I know it now, right? It gives you an opportunity to think of the situation in a different way. It's like, okay, I don't have the tools to do this. I don't have the knowledge to do this, but how do we overcome the situation that we have to, take care of?
Not knowing is not an excuse to not
yes.
move forward. Like,
No.
And you want to do it, okay, figure it out.
And he's the first one to show us that, it's okay. It's okay to ruin something. We've ruined a lot of things. I mean, we and it's okay to ruin stuff, and it's okay to be wrong, It's okay to say, "You know what, dude? I screwed up. I'm sorry." But how do we fix it? Like, how do we get past just the initial mistake, Yeah. Let's get past the mistake. Let's just move on to getting the task at hand done.
I think when you move past, like, reminiscing on a fuck up, I think you're growing. Cause I just thought I'd throw that in there because sometimes we're really hard on ourselves and then we're stuck on, like, there's nothing we could do to change it. It already happened.
Yeah.
But, like, don't let it fuck up the momentum.
Yeah,
keep going.
Keep going.
Do it tomorrow. That's it.
Yeah.
And we get stuck on it because, no one likes to fail. No one wants to say, "Man, that person did it. They were successful. I did it. It didn't work out." Okay, why? Right? And a lot of the times it's because they might have gave us the advice and we just didn't listen to it.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's as simple as that.
Yeah.
And I think it's happened to all of us. Like just with the phone.
Or people try to follow a blueprint that is not, like, what worked for you might not work for me.
Yeah, no. I mean, there's always transitioning.
In the end, we each have our own road. We're kind of...
You just can't sweat the technique,
Yeah.
As long as the end game's the same, the technique could be flexible.
Yeah.
I mean, who's to say what's right and wrong, right? As long as you get to the end game.
Yeah. Man, imagine if you literally had a visual of the journey, like a drawing, like up and down, left, right, all that. That shit
it would be like the stock market. It would be all over the place.
Yeah.
And that's really the way it actually works in life, right? There's no clear path.
Do you invest in self-improvement a lot?
Yeah.
I think I saw a video, I may be wrong, but it was like, did you have a coach or someone at the office? Like someone there?
It wasn't at the office. I've actually gone to a lot of conferences.
Oh, okay.
Conferences. Actually, my brother was part of one of them. He had never been to a conference where a lot of entrepreneurs come together.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, it's more just a mixer, right? To talk to people in different types of industries. And I took him with me and I said, "Hey, you know what? I think it's important for you to see this side of it, right? Where you're meeting a lot of different people that might not have nothing in common because everyone has or does something completely different. But at the end of the day, we've all kind of experienced the same thing. Mm-hmm. It's just, how did you go about either, getting past that failure?
Yeah.
Or what were some of the things that affected you? Or why did you decide to go on, entrepreneurship? And I think he really enjoyed it. It was actually out in Malibu. We spent 2 days out there. So it was pretty awesome. What you think of that?
It's eye-opening. Because like I was saying earlier, in your normal day-to-day, you don't get a chance to talk to someone who runs a huge company.
Yeah.
You don't get to, I mean, you just don't, your day to day doesn't allow for that just because you're not in those areas. And especially people who run those type of businesses. I mean, they're busy themselves, So, if you happen to come across someone like that, I mean, the chances of you meeting them on your day to day is slim to none, So when you go to mixers like that, it's really eye opening because, like he says, you talk to people who on a regular basis you would never, cross paths with, But you go to these events and you can talk to someone who runs this huge company and just the surprising part is you realize how normal these people are.
No, seriously.
I
think that's.
You think they get nervous to public speak as well?
Oh, I'm sure. I mean, I'm sure. Maybe some are more comfortable than others, but I'm sure, I mean, I think to a certain extent, I think everyone has a little bit of fear of something.
Yeah. What do you think? Would you agree that it's important that when you go into those type of seminars or speaking engagements, it's very important to go with an intention of what you want out of it and how will you apply it? Because I notice people may fall victim to thinking that simply attending will make them succeed. And with all due respect, a lot of them end up being, it's cool that you're motivated and all, but don't be like a motivated idiot. Like,
right.
You know what I mean? Like, we're gonna, this and that. But
you
like,
have to apply.
When you go back, what are you doing?
You have to apply what you
I mean?
learned.
Yeah.
So
I agree. I think it depends why you're doing it, right? For us, just so you know, it was actually a pretty boring subject. The reason we went, it was for taxes, right?
Oh, okay.
That's what the whole point of it was.
Yeah.
And finance. So it's not something that you're super excited about, right? But those are the locations and places that you're gonna meet people, like Guillermo says, that are gonna change your perspective. And for us, it's the same thing, right? The reason we did it is because we wanted. There was something that we were trying to improve. There was something that we wanted to better, right? And it's just not just for ourselves, but for everyone around us. So if we could grab a new tool and put it in our arsenal, then if you're my inner circle, I'm gonna share that tool with you, and I'm gonna be like, hey man, guess what? I got this new tool. Go ahead and use it. Mm-hmm. Take advantage of it. And everyone I touch, I'm gonna continue sharing that tool. So then if Luis has another tool, well, let's exchange tools. Mm-hmm.
Or use mine and pair them up.
Let's pair them up. Let's put them together. And I think that's definitely out of the box thinking, because most people don't think that way. It's okay. I got my two little tools, and I'm not gonna share them with anyone. I don't want anyone to see them. I don't even want them to know that I have them. Right?
Yeah.
And that's great and all. You might do very well, but then that's it. When you talk about plateaus, this is why people plateau.
Yeah.
Because they're holding on and they don't want to share. And they don't even know themselves that they're missing out of something bigger.
Exactly, because they don't know. I've been like that before, where it feels like, kind of like what you described. You're just so focused on your side of things, but you fail to realize that it takes un intercambio, a barter of value,
right?
Of information.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Well, and that's one thing we were mentioning the other day. Value isn't always money.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up.
Value is not money.
Yeah.
Value.
People think it is right away.
Yeah.
Well, that's their only focus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's actually one of the takeaways that I got from the seminar, the conference that we went to, was that value is not always money.
Yeah.
It's it's a lot of things, but the few things that I applied them to were the relationships, the communication, the reliability.
Yeah.
The that people want someone that's there and reliable, and that can bring more value than just a wad of cash,
Yeah, or assisting in the growth. Like, I'm so glad you brought that up. It just like, see, we get these little signs that you're doing good,
Yeah.
You gotta fuck up. I've been learning, I wasn't born into like a business family or business minded. Like, you just the growing up, with the struggle, the lack, it kind of drives you like, I want more, right? But it's not your fault for not knowing, but you can definitely be in control of learning. And I just recently like switched up something that I would do. I would, I would charge for ads here and there, but then that came up, value, and I'm like, you know what, like, because some people have a bad relationship with, they'll say how much for an ad, right?
Yeah.
But some kind of expected it for free anyways, but they just asked, and
Right.
as soon as you give a quote, you're left on scene. But if I wouldn't have replied, then I'm rude,
Right.
right? But
It's like,
so I took offense, like in a way that's like, okay, it kind of hurt my self-esteem. Like, they just want me for my ad, you know what I mean?
They want to use me.
But then I thought, like, okay, let's just all win, because maybe thinking of focusing strictly on a fee, it was kind of giving the wrong image. And I know deep down it's not all about the money. You see, I want the money, but I don't want it at the cost of your misfortune. I don't want to take advantage of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I created a value system. Like,
Yes.
If you look in my highlights on my Instagram, Containeros, you'll see it's right there in all caps, promo. Basically, it's not all about money. It's an option if you're cool with it, of course, because we can't try to manifest blessings and then when they come, be like, oh no, I don't need that money.
Yeah.
Let's face it, money is a tool.
Yeah.
Yes.
It amplifies who you really are. Like,
Yes.
you're a fucking jerk, you're gonna be a jerk with money. If
That's
you're
right.
generous, you're gonna be generous with money. So I don't know why people have a bad relationship with money, but to avoid any like having to explain, or you know what I mean, my intentions to you, it's like, pick what you're comfortable with.
Well,
A simple follow of one of my accounts. Subscribe to the podcast. Let someone know about our movement that we got
share
going
it.
on, trying to share knowledge.
Doesn't cost anything to share it.
Do this, do that. And it's, I don't feel bad asking for that in exchange. I think it's a fair transaction.
yeah.
Now it's not really like, oh, you just wanted money.
Right.
So that's been amazing, and
That's good. I'm really happy to hear that.
yeah, value.
That's value. And that's what we're trying to do here. It's bring value to everyone.
Yeah.
That's really our goal.
Whoo! You brought it up, but it had to be said.
Yeah.
The perfect
No,
timing.
no,
I wasn't
it's-
about to go do a public service announcement. I just threw it out there, but
That's right.
the destiny wants me to bring it up. So.
Yeah. So go ahead and that value button
Hit the value button.
and follow it.
Nah, I just want money, man. I put the other stuff on there just to look good, politically correct. Nah, but any tips for entrepreneurs? You mentioned time management,
Yeah.
realistic expectations,
Right.
consistency, and being a good leader. Well, anything else than that?
Well,
than that?
I think at the end of the day is persistence and dedication. I think that's one of the things that most entrepreneurs lack, and it's very easily looked over, is how dedicated you have to be and persistent you have to be. Because there you go, sponsorship right there.
Oh, no, I'm just promoting health, man.
Yeah.
Health is wealth.
And the expectation of something actually manifesting, it can't be measured in months. It's measured in years. And I think any business owner, no matter if you're in the restaurant business, transportation, whatever it might be, right, they're going to tell you the same thing. It's going to take years to get to a point where you're actually doing well. And no one wants to hear that.
Mm-hmm.
So biggest tip is patience. Patience is number one. Without patience, there's nothing else that you could do. It doesn't matter how much drive you have. It doesn't matter how much money you have. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters. At the end of the day, it's your customers, the time.
You went through $500,000 and you needed patience. You had the money. That wasn't the issue.
That wasn't the issue.
And it's still not you can't buy success.
I can't buy it. You can't. You can't tell your customers to use you, right? You can't force them to use you. If they're going to come, they're going to come. And the waiting game is the hardest part. Yeah.
So those are great tips. And we discussed, oh man, this pen is loud. We discussed family and business.
Here, let me show you
We're going to exchange
my
the
tool. Yeah. It's a lot quieter.
Your tool. It was your tool.
Now it's your tool.
My tool.
That's right.
I need a tool for these chairs. I think I need to adjust them. I built him in a rush.
Oh, you got a good setup here.
Yeah. You guys comfy?
Yeah, very nice. Thank you for the heater.
Thank you for the pen.
There we go.
Value.
Value, bringing value siempre.
On our way out, we're almost down to our last question. I would like to ask you guys what you would tell to your younger selves.
Yeah. I would just say keep doing what you're doing. I don't think I would tell myself or change anything if I was able to talk to younger Fernando, because I think every single downfall, every single struggle, every single obstacle that I went through has made me who I am. If I would have taken anything out of that, then I'm positive I would not be in the direction that I'm in right now. So just keep pushing, keep going. Y no te rajes. Yeah.
Ánimo, cabrones.
Ánimo.
Unos. ¿Y tú, Jackson?
I think I would just tell my younger self, the focusing on your target, not wasting so much time and a lot of things, I think the sooner you can focus your energy, I think would be beneficial.
The sooner the better.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting time travel there.
Yeah.
And then as we wrap it up, actually, anything else you'd like to add before we wrap it up that I left out or you feel you got to say? Let it out now.
No, thank you. I appreciate you inviting us. This is actually great. I hope that any information that we share helps someone. I'm hoping to motivate someone. The way I see it is, if an immigrant came here and is able to, create something, then anyone could do it. Anyone could do it, especially a dyslexic one, right? Where they might send you a text message and it says something completely different to what he wanted to share. I mean, if this person could do it, then there's really no reason why you can. And just keep going, definitely.
Thank you. Anything else you want to say?
Master, huge thanks to the whole team, our whole team.
They're grateful for you guys,
Definitely.
team. And it takes a team to build something big, right?
Yeah, without your team, you ain't.
Absolutely.
You got to learn that.
Yeah, you don't have anything. That one man can't do everything.
Where can they get in contact with you if they need your services or they want to know a little more about you?
They could follow us on Instagram, fml.work. You could punch that on the browser. It'll take you straight to our Instagram. You'll have our contact information there, fml.work. We love using that slogan, FML, no one forgets, right? Take it however you want.
I'll definitely take it with a positive view because a lot of people use FML for the wrong reasons.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah. Well, all right. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I'm sorry you got lost on the way here. But everything happens for a reason.
That's right.
Thank you guys for tuning in.
Yeah. Thank you guys.
We'll catch you on the next one. Peace.